The jury has spoken. Richard Alexander Alec Murdaugh, guilty of murdering his wife Maggie, guilty of murdering his wife's son, also found guilty on 2 weapons charges, weapons being used in a violent crime. The judge basically agreed with the jury, saying the evidence of guilt is overwhelming. Let's go back now to our Brooke Butler, who is standing outside the Colleton County Courthouse. Brooke, let's be honest. They deliberated for 3 hours, and they found the man guilty on both counts of murdering his loved ones.
Yeah, and now Murdaugh faces a maximum sentence of life in prison. The judge saying that sentencing will happen tomorrow. They're going to meet back here at the Colleton County Courthouse at 9:30 in the morning. But this verdict comes on day 28 of this murder trial. And as a reminder, this murder trial was actually supposed to take just 3 weeks. We're now on day 4 of week 6. So it's definitely a lengthier trial than expected. Of course, a lot of that is because we went into Murdaugh's alleged financial crimes. The state really accused Murdaugh of murdering Maggie and Paul in order to cover up those alleged financial crimes. They accused him of stealing from his law firm, stealing from clients, and Murdaugh at one point did take the stand himself, much to the surprise of many, and he did admit to stealing money. Now, in Murdaugh's testimony, he also talked about where he was minutes before the murders of his wife and son. The night of the murders, he actually told investigators that he had been at their Moselle house sleeping at the time, taking a nap while Maggie and Paul were down at their kennels. He just admitted when he took the stand this past week that he actually was at the kennels with Maggie and Paul, and that confession actually came after a video surfaced that Paul took on his phone where you can hear 3 voices. Several people testified. You could hear Maggie, Paul, and Alec did confirm it was his voice in that video. I think that was probably one of the biggest moments in this murder trial. The state kept using that to prove that Murdaugh is willing to lie to protect himself, but Murdaugh had said that he only lied because he was paranoid from his drug use. He actually did go into his drug use at one point, described being addicted to opioids for years, described how Maggie and Paul actually had confronted him about his opioid usage for years. Greg, there were several big moments in this trial. Of course, one of them was only halfway through this trial. There was actually a bomb scare. We all got evacuated out of this courthouse, you'll remember. But it turned out that bomb scare actually had nothing to do with the Murdaugh trial. We later discovered it was an inmate at a nearby prison. But I will say during this entire trial, Judge Clifton Newman really had a very graceful attitude. He was very calm, his demeanor. He always had control over the courtroom. But again, the biggest moment I would say, Greg, in this trial was that kennel video. And I should note that investigators actually didn't get their hands on that kennel video until April of 2022. That's when they were able to unlock Paul's phone. And it wasn't until Murdaugh found out about that video that he actually came forward and said, you know what, I did lie to investigators, but I only lied about where I was because I was paranoid from my drug usage, and I was just scared that I had a distrust for law enforcement. He said he actually had a pocket full of pills during his first interview with law enforcement. It happened in a law enforcement vehicle the night of the murders. But again, we heard from a lot of friends, family members, even Murdaugh's surviving son, Buster, took the stand at one point during this trial. He testified for several hours, but remained pretty emotionless during that testimony. We also heard from John Marvin Murdaugh. He discussed cleaning up the murder scene, how he had to clean up the scene after Paul and Maggie were brutally shot. Again, Greg, you had mentioned earlier, it was a very gruesome scene, and just a warning for anyone watching at home. They described Paul's brain being blown out. Maggie had been shot several times. 2 of those shots were actually fatal. They said the first one actually came through from behind, and then they said the shooter actually came through the front and shot her through the head. So definitely some gruesome details in the courtroom, the jury having to hear all of this. We as the media actually didn't see the images of Paul and Maggie's bodies, but I did see the jurors' reactions as they were shown videos, photos, and they looked very disturbed. Now, Again, this was a very lengthy trial. I think a lot of people weren't expecting the financial testimony to go on for quite as long as it did, but the jury, they paid attention for all of it. They came here every day at 9:30. We did lose a couple of jurors along the way. Even this morning, the judge actually excused a juror because he said he found out she had actually been discussing this trial with others who were not involved whatsoever. She had been giving her opinion to those people about the evidence presented in this case, which, by the way, hundreds of pieces of evidence were submitted, and we heard from over 70 witnesses. So the fact that we got guilty verdict on all 4 charges, Greg, it's almost unbelievable. I think a lot of people didn't really know what to expect with the verdict.
Brooke, just to interrupt for a moment. Here's a question. How many people will start debating whether or not it was wise for Alec Murdaugh to take the stand that day, and you were in the courtroom, where he basically said, look, I'm a liar. I'm a liar, but I'm not a killer. And apparently that didn't seem to, wasn't believed by the jury when he said, I'm a liar, but I'm not a killer.
Greg, it was a very risky move by Murdaugh. A lot of people in the courtroom were very surprised when Murdaugh actually told the judge that he wished to take this stand in his own defense. I'm sure a lot of people, as court clears out for the day, are actually going to be stopping Murdaugh's defense attorneys, Dick Harpootlian and Jim Griffin, asking them what they think if Murdaugh's own testimony was a make or break for this trial. You know, a lot of people, when he admitted that he was in that kennel video and he was at the kennels with his wife and son, Greg, I heard people audibly gasp in the courtroom. A lot of people, myself included, weren't expecting him to just come out and admit that, Greg. It was definitely an interesting moment.
What was the reaction from you and your colleagues when you found out that they had reached a verdict after just 3 hours? And again, it seems like the jury was sending a statement to Alec Murdaugh and his alibi that failed.
You know, Greg, it was very interesting. We weren't expecting, I will be honest, a verdict quite this early. They did say that the jury would stay at this courthouse until 10 this evening to deliberate, but we were actually, a lot of us were expecting that they would come back tomorrow to deliver a verdict. There were some people saying that they could even deliberate over the weekend. The defense attorneys, they were just telling us moments ago they weren't expecting a verdict until Monday, but it's almost reminiscent, Greg, of the O.J. Simpson trial, because the jury in that trial as well, they returned a verdict also at around 3 hours, Greg.
And what's also, it's amazing that Murdaugh was stone-faced. He was emotionless. All I could see in watching the video that he was clenching his jaw. Now that the jury has said, you killed your wife, you killed your own son, and Buster, we saw on the video, just sort of wiped his nose with his finger. Again, he was emotionless as well. I'm wondering for the Murdaugh family that believed in him, that believed that Alec Murdaugh was innocent, now to hear that no, you're guilty, you're a murderer, you're a killer.
Yeah, Greg, I will say Buster did remain pretty emotionless throughout the whole trial, but that was not the case with Alec Murdaugh. We all saw him several times throughout this trial sobbing while the state described the injuries, the fatal injuries that his wife and son sustained. So the reaction that we just saw in the courtroom behind me was a far cry from what we've seen the past 6 weeks. Murdaugh simply he's not been shy on holding back on his emotions until this point, Greg.
Right. And of course, the defense attorneys have asked for a mistrial, and that was shot down. And now tomorrow at 9:30, the judge will begin the phase of sentencing. And Murdaugh faces perhaps a lifetime in prison. He could be sentenced to life in prison, 30 years at the minimum, life in prison at the maximum.
Yep. Yeah, Greg, and you know, he got found guilty on all 4 charges, 2 charges of murder and also 2 charges of possession of a weapon during the commission of a crime, but that reminds me, Greg, the state actually argued that the weapons used to kill Maggie and Paul were Murdaugh family weapons, specifically this .300 Blackout rifle that was used to kill Maggie. Greg, the state argued that they actually found shell casings on the Murdaugh's property that matched the shell casings that surrounded Maggie's body. They also had lots of shotguns. You know, this was a hunting property, Greg, that they were murdered on. So that was a big moment again in this trial.
And a big moment we just saw bringing it to you folks live that the verdict from the jury came back. Alec Murdaugh found guilty on 2 counts for the murder of his wife and his son.